We haven't had that conversation within the House Democratic Caucus family, and so I'm not going to get out ahead of that discussion. But there are real concerns that any so-called commission being backed by the extreme MAGA Republicans is part of a backdoor way of trying to gut Social Security and Medicare. Because what we've seen year after year, in fact, decade after decade, is that the House Republican agenda is pretty clear. Slash Social Security, end Medicare as we know it, and blow up the Affordable Care Act. And from time to time, including most recently by the former insurrectionist in chief, say the quiet part out loud. And so there'll be some concerns relative to any proposal being backed by the House Republicans, but there are members in good faith on our side of the aisle who do want to have a discussion about making sure that Social Security and Medicare can continue to be an important part of the fabric of the great American dream, and to ensure that we can continue to be fiscally responsible as we provide for the needs of the American people. It's the other side of the aisle that talks about fiscal responsibility, but continues to actually blow up our debt and our deficit, while Democrats, including under President Bill Clinton, President Barack Obama, and now President Joe Biden, are the party that actually has reduced deficits. And in the case of President Clinton, turned a deficit into a surplus. And every single time the Republicans gain control of the House and or the Senate, what they do is they jam big tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected down the throats of the American people, as they did with the GOP tax scam, where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1% here in America, and they saddled our children and grandchildren with $2 trillion worth of unnecessary debt. That's the Republican record on fiscal responsibility. The same thing was done under President Ronald Reagan, and the same thing was done under President George W. Bush. That's their record. So we'll evaluate any legislative proposal on the merits, but there's deep reason to be concerned because my Republican colleagues don't have a record that indicates any seriousness with respect to fiscal responsibility.
This is all a scam. I mean, we got people that's getting ready to retire that's going to try to live off $2,000 to $3,000. Impossible. It's impossible. Because what happens, it comes up here, we spend it. We're $35 trillion in debt. We don't have any money. We're dead broke. And then taxpayers have $2 trillion in credit card debt. We are in huge trouble. In this body, we had better start figuring that out because we're going to have a run on this city here soon, and there's going to be about 150 million people coming up here saying, where's our damn money that we paid in? I could have put my Social Security money, 40 years, in tax, in the market, and probably be worth 8 to 10 million today. But the federal government wasted it. So I'll get off my horse there. But it's good that we have this because we got, you know, I get a little pension check from education. I was part of a union. It's not going to help people. People are going to have to work, continue to work longer and longer. Am I right, Ms. Gender? Can you say something about Social Security and it being taxed for some reason? We're taxing people for the second time on Social Security that they put into an account.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out when Social Security was first founded, those who established it, it was started out as a 2% tax, and they said this will never take more than 6% of your income. Today it takes 12.4%, and depending on whether you go with CBO or Social Security trustees, it needs to take between 15.8 and 17.5%. So we're talking about thousands of dollars more per year. It also was actually only originally recommended that the tax be up to $66,000, equivalent in today's dollars of earnings. But over time, it has expanded massively, and the money has been spent every year. So whereas everybody thinks this money's been set aside for me, no, for the past 13 years, every dollar that has gone out of workers' paychecks has gone immediately to pay promised benefits. And that's what happens when you have a system that enables those in charge of it to spend the money in the immediate term and leave the buck to the next generation that's coming along. And because Social Security has grown so much, it's actually to the detriment of lower income workers in particular, who have to pay such a large share of their paycheck to Social Security, they have little left to save for retirement. And then lower income and African American workers have the lowest life expectancies. So they are the most likely to get nothing back in return. 1 out of 4 African American men will die between the ages of 45 and 64 after having paid into this system for decades, tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they might get nothing back.
What's the solution?
I think we ultimately have to shift towards a universal benefit system. That's what true social insurance is. It does not make sense that we are paying the biggest benefits to the highest income earners. So gradually over time, I think we need to bend down the benefits for the middle and upper income earners, actually increase them for the lower income earners, look at things like indexing retirement age to life expectancy, more accurate inflation index, and I think that workers need an option to have their money in something that actually earns a positive rate of return and that can't just immediately be spent by Congress.
I have a 28 and 29-year-old, 2 boys, got a job, working hard, paying Social Security. They ask me all the time, Dad, will I ever see any of that money? Will they see it?
I think they will see some of it. That's the exact same thing I hear whenever I ask a group of younger workers, and none of them raises their hand. So I think that there will be something there, but it's not going to be what has been promised.
Mr. Stevens, you got anything to add to that?
Thank you, Senator. What I would add is when we talk about Social Security or we talk about pensions, the 2 things that they both have in common is that guaranteed income. You know what you're going to get, generally speaking, at the end of it. What I reference in terms of protected retirement, we have developed now solutions that get at both of those in a very efficient way, and they also address the issue around market volatility because we have step-ups and lock-ins, and it's a very efficient way to deliver that to millions of Americans that we've been talking, and that's all because of what you all did around Secure Act 1.0 and 2.0. They have put us in a position to do that, and that's why I'm really encouraging us to have every 401k plan, 457 plan, 403b plan at least one of those solutions so that the American workers can choose. If they want to know what they're going to get in retirement, we can deliver that for them.
Young people of all ages ask me, why can't we put our money in our own 401k instead of put it in Social Security? Is there an answer to that?
I think what I love is that they're asking the right question. Savings in any way is a good thing, and I think there's a place for Social Security, there's a place for pensions, and there's certainly a place for what we're doing in 401k plans.
Thank you.
Senator Hassan.
Thank you.
Speaker, I yield 1 minute now to our Democratic leader, Mr. Jeffries of New York.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the distinguished gentleman from the great state of New Jersey for yielding and for his tremendous leadership. The House of Representatives, of course, is the institution the framers designed to be the closest to the American people, the first institution mentioned in the United States Constitution, the People's House, the place where President Abraham Lincoln declared that America is the last best hope of earth, the place where FDR made clear the importance of defending democracy against the tyranny of Nazi fascism. It's the place where President Lyndon Baines Johnson talked about the importance of the Voting Rights Act and made clear to America that we shall overcome. The House of Representatives is a special place. And so earlier today, I was told you need to get to the House floor to deal with the signature piece of legislation from the extreme MAGA Republicans in this 118th Congress. And so I wondered to myself, is it going to be about inflation, lower costs, housing affordability, public safety, dealing with the challenges at the border. Social Security, Medicare, what is it going to be about? And it turns out the signature piece of legislation for the extreme MAGA Republicans this week, this month, this year is hands off our Home Appliances Act. This is what we are dealing with on this magical House floor with all of the challenges that the American people are confronting. Liberty for laundry, defending the dignity of dishwashers, fighting for freedom of refrigerators. This is what we're doing? Can't make it up. You can't make it up. As House Democrats, we are going to defend democracy. Extreme MAGA Republicans working on defending the dignity of dishwashers. As House Democrats, we are going to protect and strengthen Social Security. Extreme MAGA Republicans apparently interested in protecting gas stoves against phony accusations of oppression. House Democrats are going to defend reproductive freedom. Extreme MAGA Republicans focused on the freedom for refrigerators. We believe in a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. Period. Full stop. In women's health care, in protecting the women of America against extreme MAGA Republican overreach. And instead of leaning into the protection of reproductive freedom, instead of trying to strengthen Social Security and Medicare, you want to criminalize abortion care. You want to impose a nationwide ban, and then waste time on the House floor as it relates to the liberty of laundry. You can't make this up. And so I just urge my Republican colleagues to partner with us. If you want to push back against overreach, push back against the pro-Putin extreme overreach on your side of the aisle. It doesn't want to defend democracy and freedom here and abroad. It's undermining it. And we extend the hand of partnership, as we've repeatedly done, to solve real problems for the American people. But those problems have nothing to do with the dignity of dishwashers, the freedom of refrigerators, or the liberty of laundry. Let's get back to doing the real business of the American people. Vote no against this legislation.